I've been asked to talk about the Good Samaritan mission and what it means to me, and to me it means neighbors helping neighbors. It's the principle of rabbinical teaching never to answer a question directly in order to push the questioner to think more deeply. Once a student became so frustrated with his rabbi that he shouted, "Why do you always answer my question with a question?" To which the rabbi calmly replied, "Why shouldn't I?" Now, among many things, Jesus was a very good rabbi. So when a lawyer asked him, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus replied, "What is written in the law? How do you read there?" The man answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength and all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said, "Right. Do this and you will live." But the lawyer knew how to play the game, and so he asked another question. "Who is my neighbor?" This time Jesus responded not with a question, but with a story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him and beat him and left him half dead. You know the rest of the story. A priest came along and passed on by. Then a deacon came and looked, but he also passed on by. And finally, a Samaritan, a foreigner, came and helped the man in the ditch at some considerable expense. Now, which of these three do you think, Jesus said, was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The one who showed him mercy. Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." Now that nailed it for the lawyer in the story that we read in Luke, but every situation is different and calls for a different response. So who is my neighbor? How shall I love her? Elizabeth Barrett wrote a love poem to Robert Browning that begins, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight." So, who is my neighbor? And how shall I love her? Let me count the ways. My neighbor is a friend of many years who lives a few doors away from me. I happen to know that as a single mother, she raised a family on the modest income of a church worker. She saved enough to afford Marjorie P. Lee 15 years ago, but now she needs help in order to stay here in her home. How shall I love her? I can't subsidize her rent, but I can help her through my gift to the Good Samaritan mission. My neighbor is a woman who has worked hard all her life in low-paying jobs at hospitals and as a home health aide with the Council on Aging. Sick and elderly clients count on her to be there on time with capable hands and a warm smile. Now she is 62 and needs a decent apartment that she can afford on her low income. How shall I love her? I'm not a landlord with apartments to rent, but I can help provide affordable living communities through my gift to the Good Samaritan mission. My neighbor is a church member who one Sunday decided to go for the blood pressure screening offered monthly by the parish nurse. The nurse came to the sanctuary, found the husband, and told him, "You need to take her to the hospital now." How shall I love her? Doctors stabilized her atrial fibrillation and prevented a heart attack. She's my neighbor. I'm not a doctor skilled in cardiac care, but I can help provide parish nurses in our churches through my gift to the Good Samaritan mission. My neighbor is a woman whose church has always been a vital part of her life, but she can no longer attend. The travel and the steps are just too much for her. She has found a new anchor for her spiritual life in worship and Bible study here at Marjorie P. Lee. How shall I love her? Through my gift to the Good Samaritan mission, I help provide that spiritual anchor offered by Father Angelo and his colleagues. My neighbor is a woman of 92 who still lives alone in the house she and her husband bought 50 years ago. Nearly blind, she doesn't go out much anymore, but she gets along pretty well. The highlight of each day is when the volunteer delivers her dinner and then stops for a little visit. How shall I love that neighbor? I can't prepare her meals every day, but I can support Meals on Wheels through my gift to the Good Samaritan mission. These are some of my neighbors. They are not abstract or imaginary. Each one is a real person I have known and loved for many years. One is my daughter. Another was my wife. All the others are dear friends that I've known for many years. But my neighbor does not have to be family or friend. In fact, the point of the Good Samaritan story is that the man in the ditch was not his cousin or a good friend or even a member of his own race. He was a stranger who just happened to need help. That's all. And that's enough. So who are your neighbors? How shall you love them? I invite you to count the many ways you can love your neighbors through your gift to the Good Samaritan mission. Thank you.